Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about 4-day work weeks. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, would you say that a 4-day work week would help reduce burnout and increase productivity among software engineers? Yes and no. Some people are certainly burnt out and might need some extra rest, but I don't think it's going to increase productivity, honestly. I think that the thing is that it's sort of like saying that you need 8 hours of sleep. Yes, that is true. But does that mean that your body is going to just set a timer for you always and you sleep exactly 8 hours, no more, no less? It varies. Sometimes you sleep for 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, maybe 9 hours, 10 hours. Like, it's difficult to say because it's something that is internal to you. And the amount of rest you need to reduce stress or to not have burnout is also personal to you. That's why some people have anxieties and depression, and some people are hyperactive or like have bipolar. It's like saying that everybody is sort of the same. If you buy pizza for everybody, that's going to improve productivity, right? Yeah, maybe it's more about the fact that they're getting some food and getting some extra energy rather than it's a specific thing like a pizza. And so I think that this is the these are the sort of experiments that usually happen. It's I feel like I understand sort of where they're going with this and so forth, but honestly, I think that the main problem is that we're seeing symptoms of a faster moving world and seeing symptoms of certain people not being able to cope all that well with the change, like this changing, like basically our world, like how the modern society works. It's very difficult for some people to survive in that environment, as we are seeing. I'm not saying for the first time, but we're seeing a genre of problems due to the fact that everything is much more fast moving than it's ever been before. And I don't really think that slowing down is an option. I don't think that that's ever going to happen, because the fundamental problem with that idea is that you would have to somehow prove definitively that less equals more. And I've never really seen that turn out well, for especially not in like a capitalist system or so forth, because we know, like, the idea is that the harder you work, the faster you're going to get to the rewards and like secure your place in the hierarchies and all of this good stuff, right? And for us software developers, your productivity has, I mean, to give you a very concrete example, if I told you that you can work for 4 days, assuming that you're going to produce more, uh, does that mean that you're going to be able to work at the same pace now? Probably not. You're probably going to have to work quite quickly in the days that you actually work for me to get something back. Because if you are an average software developer, you're already working at peak capacity. It's sort of like the strength training. If you strength train for 3 days versus 4 days, well, both can work. It really comes down to, like, are you eating enough? Are you doing all these other things? Like, are you changing up your like rotations and so forth? Are your muscles getting, are you working on different parts of your muscles or different exercises and so forth? It's the same thing with us. When you sit and work, this is, assuming now that you're not like slacking off or something like that, you are performing at peak efficiency at that state. And the only way to increase your productivity is either by reducing the problems that you're dealing with. As I like to say, the problem is what the problem is. Either you have to simplify the problem or increase your capacity. And you don't get increased capacity by just resting more. It comes down to resting enough. And that's the thing that, as I said, it's the individual thing. On average, if you look at a really large population, then yes, I think that might have a positive effect. But as I said, that has less to do with the fact that that an individual program is just going to by default become more productive. In reality, I think it's going to be a much more mixed bag than that. That, as I said, if you look at it from a high perspective over multiple companies, the average might improve, but for individual companies, it might actually not do. It might not actually turn out to be more effective or not. What I will argue will increase developer productivity is something that is much more powerful than just rest, and that is engagement. Engagement is more powerful, I argue, than just resting, because as I said, it's not about you can, if I tell you to sleep for 20 hours, that doesn't mean that you have more energy with the 4 hours you have left than if you just slept 8 hours. It's about filling like a cup, fill it to where it's full and don't overfill it. That's the thing I'm going for. And 4 days versus 5 days versus 3 days, like, it's difficult to say. It depends on you and a much more complicated set of factors. But the thing that is always true is that if your developers are engaged people, that they actually get energy. Like, there's a famous saying, if you do a job you love, you never work a day in your life, or something like that. And I completely believe that. Like, to me, that is obvious. It is the like I'm to me, at the very least, I'm living proof of this. I cannot wait to go back to work so that I can keep on doing the thing that I love. And rest is just something that I have to do because my body tells me that I need to. And I don't want to rest more than I actually need because I have too much fun doing the thing that I love. And my productivity is at a high level due to the fact that I care about the work that I do and that I have, and these other factors like what tools do I have access to? Am I educated enough? Do I actually, am I smart enough? Like, all these different factors, which has nothing to do with per se with rest. It has to do with capacity and talent and circumstances and things like that. And so I will say that I agree that it will reduce burnout because you're resting more, and burnout usually leads to this thing, but not necessarily in the way that we predict it to be. Useful, because some people get burned out by just the stress itself. It doesn't matter if it's 4 days or 5 days. Some people will get help, and some, in many cases, I think that it won't actually make much of a difference. But when it comes to productivity, on average, I argue that a much more powerful method of approaching this is to consider engagement and personal empowerment. That's more important. So what I want you to take away from this is that 4-day work weeks, people are experimenting with this, and there are in general positive signs and so forth, but I think it's too much of an oversimplification that just by doing that you're going to increase productivity, because productivity has if you have someone who does something in a bad way, or like a very strong person or something like that, trying to lift a really, really heavy box to a certain distance, and you put them next to a person who's maybe a little bit less, weaker physically, but has a cart, they're going to be able to be more productive because they have a smarter solution to the problem. It's the same thing with us. Productivity has more to do with how engaged are you, how smart are you, what tools do you have access to, what's the state of the system, what problems are you solving. These are much more complicated factors than you just getting burnt out. Some people will, I think, see a benefit from this, but I find it difficult to believe that you're going to see some type of drastic change in productivity just because you reduce the work week. I'm not sure that's going to happen. It might give some positive benefits, but I'm not convinced that it's just going to be definitively proven that this thing helps productivity. Have a great day.